No ancient gods were egotistical, were they? Well, actually, yeah, they were. So the Anunnaki, there's many stories where they would say things like, if you, in other words, to another Anunnaki, for example, Marduk, if you did X, Y, and Z, you will be written down on Nibiru as a hero for the rest of your life. Now that's something they actually wanted, but obviously that's just the Anunnaki. The Greek gods wouldn't have done the same thing, would they? Yes, they did. They wanted everything written down, and they wanted themselves to be heroes, which is kind of weird, because obviously what just so happens the same gods that the Anunnaki want to do the same things. Well, then you've got the Roman gods, which again are really, let's be honest, the Anunnaki gods. And again, they wanted their stories written down, they wanted their carvings, their statues. So ego gods, the video you've all been waiting for, the Greek person Plato and his story of Atlantis. Well, if you've watched my other videos, you know that I've mentioned who was on Atlantis. In other words, there was a place, in my opinion. However, over the next few videos, I'm going to be showing you why you cannot believe what was written by Plato about Atlantis. So even though I sort of contradict myself by saying there was such a place, I'm actually explaining in the next few videos why people are crazy to actually read his writings and believe anything else other than that there was a place. In this video, I'm going to be explaining why I think Atlantis is real, and in the next video I'll be explaining why you can't believe 99% of what Plato said. Now, the reason why I believe it's real is because the description of Atlantis is given that it's in concentric circles. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that the Anunnaki built their cities in concentric circles. So is that a coincidence that Plato, some 9,000 years after the supposed Atlantis was around, actually guessed that concentric circles was how the Anunnaki built their cities? The actual date here of when Plato wrote about it was 360 BC, but he's referring in his writings to around 9,000 years before that. Now, if you go along with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which is an early rendition of what it looked like, the dates match. Why you can't believe exactly what Plato says, basically, I won't go and bore you with who said what and when, but over a very long period of time, 9,000 years, supposedly somewhere in Egypt, there was writings on a wall about Atlantis. Now, this was then told to someone by priests in Egypt, who then eventually, very long story, loads of different people involved, but basically Plato ended up with the information and then wrote about it. So we're talking a span of 9,000 years to remember everything that someone said. So have a look at this, and this is some of the information that's in there. Now, some of the information does ring true. This is why I said you can't believe 100%. So for example, where it says that the gods split up the land, now if you go back to Sumerian texts, they did do that. They drew straws. And also in ancient Greece, Zeus, etc., also split up the lands. So let's have a listen to how much information was passed down that would have supposedly been written on Egyptian walls.
There was a plain which is said to have been the fairest of all plains and very fertile. Near the plain again, and also in the centre of the island at a distance of about 50 stadia, there was a mountain not very high.
Okay, you could believe that they wrote
dwelt
that.
all round, making alternate zones of sea and land, larger and smaller.
Okay, you could believe that that was
one
written.
Of warm water and the other of cold, and making every variety of food to spring up abundantly from the soil.
Okay, starting to get a lot of information there on written walls.
Now, Atlas had a numerous and honourable family, and they retained the kingdom, the eldest son handing it on to his eldest son for many generations. And they,
as you see, I'm
some
going
animals,
along here.
both those which live in lakes and marshes and rivers, and also for those who live in mountains and on plains.
This is all supposedly written on a tablet on a wall.
Every king surpassing the one who went before him to the utmost of his power, until they made the building a marvel to behold. which the palace was situated, had a diameter of 5 stadia. All this, including the zones and the bridge, which...
So you really think they put the measurements on a hieroglyphics on a wall in a temple somewhere in Egypt that we've never found, that then someone had to remember all of this to give it to someone else that gave it, eventually got to Plato? Seriously? There's just too much information.
The palaces in the interior of the citadel were constructed on this wise. In the centre was a holy temple dedicated to Plato and Poseidon, which remained inaccessible and was surrounded...
I mean, this just goes on, as you can see, we're only halfway through, so too much information to be true. Demons and dragons, I know I've already covered this before, but there's still people out there that say aliens are demons, etc, etc. Well, a demon is a meteorite that comes to Earth, and a dragon is one that has a tail. These are the actual ancient texts, and I'll try and prove that by going with this particular bit here. This was a video done by someone, suppressed cuneiform tablets that parallel the Bible, and that's because I'm doing a Bible discussion soon regarding the Anunnaki. And this person's great, but what he does is he starts reading this, and he's talking about Tiamat, which we know was the planet that Nibiru smashed into, which ended up creating Earth. Tiamat had one half was water, the other half was land, and thus we ended up with Earth, which had water and land, and the asteroid belt, etc. And obviously comets flying around that have an icy tail. So have a listen to this, because at the beginning of the he's going through a cuneiform tablet here that's very it's in public domain, but very few people know of it. So have a listen to this.
For his length is 50 baru. The baru is the distance that may be covered in 2 hours travel, about 6 or 7 miles, and this would make the dragon 300 or 350 miles in length.
So he's talking about a dragon, which we know is in space. Well, they say heaven, but of course we know heaven should have been space. Here's some more where he carries on talking.
6 cubits is his mouth, 12 cubits his. 12 cubits is the circuit of his ears. For the space of 60 cubits he, birds. In water 9 cubits deep he drags, he raises his tail...
Drags water along, did you hear that? So again, another reason why dragons are the ones with the tails. And another passage here.
Making the hair stand up all over my body, so it's just, wow, it's pretty incredible. It's like...
Sorry, this is where he's working stuff out, that it's actually celestial bodies, because the Anunnaki called the planets deities, really.
Syncing up with the music. So now let's talk about the 7 evil demons. The 7 evil demons. The remainder of the verse illegible, as well as the beginning of the verse, opened his mouth and spake to the god, let cloud arise and storm stir up, the sill of the life hold before thy face, set on, and thou shalt slay the Labu. He raised up cloud and stirred up storm. He held...
So basically what he said is there's demons, which are normal meteors that enter Earth's atmosphere. So next time you sort of say demons are aliens, etc., just go back and think about the original translations. Demons were just meteorites, dragons were asteroids with tails. Why you might want to follow me on my videos. No, that's not me. I'm talking about Norse mythology, which really is to do with the Anunnakis. I'll be talking about near-death experiences. I've been researching even more about how people can end up with deformities because of their past life. Not just birthmarks, but actual deformities because of their past life. Death. I'll be coming very soon to the British Museum, and I'll be talking about the Anunnaki and ancient Egypt again, and I'll also be going through ancient Indian texts and explaining to you guys that it again was the Anunnaki. I'll also be trying to explain what Göbekli Tepe was and why it's so old, etc. And something that you guys might not even realise is that the Nazca lines are actually also cut into a top of a mountain. Literally the top is sliced off. So keep watching, follow, subscribe, hit that like bell.